The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show. Yeah!
Hi, welcome to the Pool Guy Podcast Show. This is a special episode where I sat down with 6 of the members of my group, and we talked about some of the reasons why they've been successful in the pool industry. We also addressed some common customer issues for you from different perspectives, and I think the content of this particular podcast was so good that I don't want to break it up and cut it out. For this recording, I was joined by Karl from Pool Ninja up in Sacramento, Chris of Pool Guardians in Tampa, Florida, Brennen from Blue River Pools in San Diego, Lance from Lance's Pool Service in Arizona, and also Dean from Big Family Pools in Arizona. And you'll hear a little bit from John also from J&J Flawless Pools in Coachella Valley. And if you're interested in joining the group, you can find out more about that at poolguycoaching.com. Pool Service Pro. Open a Leslie's wholesale account today and receive wholesale pricing on products you use every day. Leslie's Pool Supply offers convenient locations that are open 7 days a week. Another great benefit of opening a Leslie's wholesale account is Leslie's referral program. Get referred to a customer looking for weekly pool service. Also receive priority service, enhanced rebate programs, a discount on your general liability insurance through SPA, a discount on your pool routing software through Skimmer, and an opportunity to co-brand with Leslie's on your social media, website, truck, and more. Save time and money and grow your pool service route and become a Leslie's Pro. So I'm joined by 5 of the members of my group, and we're going to do something unique here. We're going to have a panel, and I'm going to go through a series of questions, and it's always good to hear from me, but it's probably better to hear from other voices out there with situations that they run into on their route and their business. And as we do this, when they talk for the first time, they're going to introduce themselves and give a little background. And every time they're going to answer a question, they may say their name if they remember, so you kind of know who's talking. But we'll just take it from there. And so the first question I have for them, and first thing is, how's everyone doing today?
Really good, thank you.
Good. Doing good.
Yeah, that worked out the way I wanted to. Good. So what are some of the big challenges? We'll start with the first question. What are some of the biggest challenges when you started your pool service business? And whoever wants to go first can just jump in.
Well, this is Dean Willett with Big Family Pools in Chandler, Arizona. I've been in business now for 2 years, and I think the biggest challenge for me was the first month or so was getting that initial business. But then after I started getting the business, the biggest challenge was not knowing what you don't know. Like you run into a situation where you think you know something, or you Google it, or you go to YouTube and you find the answer for it, but then that doesn't take care of it, and you just don't know where to go next, which is why I had to find professionals like everyone here in this group to kind of help me out get through those things.
Well, this is Chris Mealy with Pool Guardians in Tampa, Florida. I would say my biggest challenge was taking everybody that came along and not thinking if you really want to service that pool or not long term. And to be honest, I still struggle with that because I pretty much take everybody, but it's something I'm trying to struggle with telling people that that I don't want to do that pool. Or it's too far, or it's just too much debris getting in the pool and that kind of thing.
You can't just tell them their pool sucks, you know?
Exactly. I'm too nice. That's what my wife says. You're too nice.
Great, Chris.
Yeah. So this is Karl from Pool Ninja. I'm in Sacramento. I've been in business for about 2.5 years, and I'm going to kind of concur with Dean. I think that was definitely one of my biggest issues when I was first starting out. I didn't really come from a technical background. I came from more of like an office type setting. So, everything was brand new for me, and, not having the answers for customers was always really difficult for me. Because of course, you get in the business, and on day one, if you have a pool account, I think your customers expect you to know what you're talking about. So, I always put a lot of pressure to try to have all the answers, but I didn't always. So, there was a lot of time I spent at pool pads, Googling and YouTubing and trying to get those answers for the customers. And sometimes those would make my days go a lot longer, but the technical knowledge was definitely the most challenging thing for me.
Yeah, this is Brennen here with Blue River Pool and Spa. I'm in San Diego. I think a couple of the challenges were learning and growing, just like everybody. I've been in business 10 years and, we still learn new things every day, So learning and growing is probably one of the biggest challenges, and, getting all the licenses and stuff like that too.
Yeah, I bet. That's one of the big things is everything you have to learn and all the technical things that people think a pool is very simple, but it's really not.
Lance with Southwest Pool Care, located in Tucson, Arizona. For me, the biggest challenge was starting my own business at 17 when most of my competitors were in their 30s, 40s, 50s plus, run into things like potential clients being skeptical of my work experience and stuff like that. And to this day, I still get every once in a while when I go out to bid a pool, I still get the owner assured me that he was going to be here to bid the pool and come introduce himself, and I have to explain, that's me. I'm the owner. So for me, it's sometimes, it's been a challenge kind of relaying that to the customer that I have the expertise, because I was kind of born into the industry. So
Yeah, and you look like you're about 18 now, man, so that's probably helping you, right? So since all of you guys have started, you're pretty well established now, I would say, in most cases. Your initial goals when you started, do you think that you've achieved some of those? Or are you still working on those?
This is
Well,
Karl again from Pool Ninja. I think for me, my initial goals I achieved, which were essentially just be able to pay my bills and survive. So I think for me, my initial goal was I just want to make sure that I'm secure and that I don't have to go back to my day job. So initial goal, I could definitely put a check mark by that one. As far as long-term goals, there's still a lot of those, but I think for me, that was definitely my number one goal, and I got there. So that's that's a big thing for me.
yeah, my initial goal also, I transferred over from the real estate business. Like I got burnt out in real estate and I was looking for something different. So after I started doing it for a while, I decided, I was enjoying this and I wanted to make it something where in the first year I could be doing it full time. And I would say that took about 4 or 5 months to get to that point. So I have more than exceeded where I thought I would be at this time. And, I've been very, very blessed and thankful for where I am.
Yeah, now, let me jump in real quick. And Karl, they may not know, but you have 250 accounts right now. So you've done really well in 2.5 years. And I remember Dean, after the first year, he had put a message out saying, well, this is the point where I was going to get to if I can make it or not. And he decided to stick with the business at that point. So I think those are two things that I should highlight for the listeners there.
for me, this is Lance from Tucson again. For me, I wanted to know more about pool water chemistry than anybody else in my area. Ultimately, I wanted to be seen as an authority on pool care and pool water chemistry. And it is still a work in progress, and it always will be because there's always more things to learn. There's always new things, new technologies coming out in the industry, new technologies getting integrated into pools and backyard pool care and things like that. So it's our job to learn all that we can and to keep up with it. So that's what I try to do.
Yes, and this is Chris from Pool Guardians. I would say that my goals have been met as well. I'm at a little over 100 now, and I'm getting my first subcontractor starting next week. So, and another one is a possibility soon too. So we'll see how things go in 2021.
That's great, Chris. That's quite an expansion for you because I remember when I met you last year in Florida, you had about, I would say, 60 accounts. Is that 60 or 70?
Well, I started from scratch. Last year I had 55 a year ago today, and now I'm over 100. So, and I did everything. I didn't buy any accounts or anything. I just started with Thumbtack and stuff like that.
Yeah, it took every account that you
Google.
ran into, right?
And exactly took everything. But I did charge more than most people, even from the beginning. So
That's good.
that was one thing I couldn't, so if they pay my price, I'll go.
What about you, Brennen?
Yeah, I think I've reached my goals. When I started with about 6 accounts, and I've grown organically pretty much through the years, here and there, pretty much from word of mouth. I used to hand out flyers though, do do what called 5 around, get the satellite images with the pools around the pools that you have, and then go hand out the flyers. Those worked for a while, but pretty much organically, word of mouth. Built my route from about 10 years to about, I was at 90 at one point, now I'm about 80. But yeah, I pretty much reached my goals. I got my contractor's license. So yeah, I think I'm doing pretty good, and then just keep moving forward, just keep learning, keep growing, and just keep trying the best I can out here to provide quality service for these guys.
And I often joke with the local guys here. Whenever it gets windy, I'll text them, like living the dream, or when something happens, like a fire. And, but in all seriousness, what are some of the major challenges you think over the years of running your pool service business? Or you can highlight one or two of the major hurdles in your business.
Yes, Brennen again. The major hurdles, is pretty much the winds, and cleaning up the pools that are pretty thrashed. That and just creating a rapport with your customers is kind of a hurdle. Getting a good rapport with the customers, and they get in your good graces and stuff like that. But the winds, they can be a challenge.
And the heat too, I guess. And if the Arizona guys can talk about the heat, I guess, in this one.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the heat in the summer when it's 115, 118. This year was exceptionally bad because we had 2.5 months of that instead of 2.5 weeks of it. But the biggest challenge for me, again, was kind of going back to what I said earlier, is getting it. I'm one who jumped in day one, basically called myself a full-time pool guy, sent out a message to all my real estate friends, and started getting business day one. Like day one, I got a job, and it was an acid wash. So I had no idea what to do. And I'm like, all right, acid wash, it can't be that hard. I go to YouTube, find out what acid wash is, and I go acid wash your pool. It came out fantastic. I was really happy with it. The client was really happy with it. But I have a background before real estate where I was a mechanic for a while. So I have no problem jumping into a motor and trying to figure out what's going on. So it was just that learning experience of I was too willing to take on jobs that I probably didn't know what I was doing and figure out as I went. And I made some mistakes along the way where I had to pay for stuff that I broke. And I knew I have to do that, and I ended up doing that, and it took me a while to realize that you have to reach out a little bit for help, but just knowing the business was the hardest. So, yeah.
I bet. And I hope you didn't watch the acid wash video where the guy was barefoot.
No, he had flip flops on. He wasn't barefoot.
Yeah,
There you go.
that's how he rolls. That's how he rolls.
I think we all remember our first acid wash.
Yeah, definitely. What about you, Lance? What about you in Arizona with the weather and different things that we don't deal with in California, obviously?
Yeah, that was going to be my talking point for this one specifically. Is just the summers are brutal. You're juggling pool issues. You got long pool days. Sunrise to sunset. So it's a long day in the summertime in 115-degree weather. And then we get monsoon season out here, which it cools the weather down a little bit, but it comes with its own challenges. You got like hot rains during work sometimes and stuff like that. So it's a lot of work. It's a lot of stress in the summertime for sure out here.
It cools it off, but it raises that humidity.
Yeah, exactly.
So in Florida, Chris,
Yes.
you guys have all screened-in pools, and you have no problems, right?
Well, I would say that 90% of my pools are screened in, but we do have some heat and humidity here that's pretty bad. So,
And for the listeners that don't know what a screened-in pool is, it's basically a pool in the backyard with a screen around it. It's kind of weird, but it's a Florida thing, right?
it's a fantastic thing. Keeps the bugs out, but people landscape inside those screens too. So they're not all. I mean, there's people put palm trees in them. It just depends on the screen, but most of them are just potted plants.
So are there any challenges in Florida besides that? Besides the fact that everything's easy?
Well, it is completely different than Arizona. The chemistry, it's amazing how different chemistry is with the pool. Here we get so much rain. We have to add calcium. We have to add stabilizer. And other places, it's hard when Dean and I talk to each other. Sometimes for a second, we're like, well, why don't you just wait? The rain will take care of it. But no, not there.
I think Harold Evans said that Florida is the phosphate nation. There's such
It is, yes. We have some phosphate mines around here, so
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's in the air.
yeah.
So, Karl, you're in California like me, but you're in Northern California, so it's a little bit different. You're like in a different state.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, I mean, Northern California, it's kind of interesting out here because I would say that my route spans about a 15 mile circular radius, and it's really hit or miss based on kind of the neighborhood, how long a pool takes. There's certain neighborhoods that people just know if you get a pool in that area, you're going to be spending a lot more time netting it out than if you go to this other area. So there's definitely preferential areas that you'd like to be in. In the fall, there's definitely some areas that just get hammered, and having the riptide or any kind of a leaf back is a lifesaver for sure. But yeah, I'd say the one of the challenges here is definitely not really knowing, especially in the fall, what you're gonna walk up to. Sometimes you just don't know. I mean, as obviously if there's a windstorm or something like that, the pools are going to be pretty hammered, but sometimes you'll walk back there and it's a 20-minute stop, and the next week you go to the same pool and it's a 40-minute stop. So the unpredictability is definitely, for me, that was in terms of the actual servicing of the pools, that was kind of a challenge. And
Yeah.
even for me and my guys right now, sometimes I have to look at a work day and I'm limited as to any kind of additional work that I could put on them, like filter cleans or any other like Polaris repairs or anything like that, just because I don't know what those pools are going to look like that day. So yeah, the inconsistency out here in terms of just not knowing what you're walking up to, and yeah, that's what,
Yeah.
as far as the service part goes. As far as running the business goes, what I was going to kind of bring up was just um, as I grow, I've noticed that how you run your business at 40 pools compared to how you run your business at 100 pools or 150 or at 200. It's like I'm managing a new business every other month, because your business model just has to change, and how you do things just have to change. I think I think I had about 50 or 60 pools, and I did buy a route. I bought about 90 pools when I was right at that point, and overnight my business model changed and how I did things changed, and it was just I wasn't the same business within a 24-hour period. So that was probably one of the bigger challenges. And of course, every time after that, every 25 to 50 pools, I feel like things change and you have to make adjustments.
That's great. I mean, that's from a point of someone who's grown so rapidly, I think that's a good point to make, especially for the one polers who want to try to expand, that it's very different running a small single, person route and running a multi route. And definitely the wins. I think John in Riverside, one of the members of the group, he had an employee just quit on him outright the first week when the Santa Ana winds blew. And it can be challenging in California. People don't know how bad the winds are until you actually live in California. Lance, you're originally from here, so the Santa Ana winds are just devastating to the guys out here. It's crazy. But definitely the vacuum system out here. I was going to ask a going back in time question. So if you were able to go back in time and tell your younger self something, besides buying Tesla stock, what would you tell?
Yeah.
What would you tell
Oh,
your younger self?
get a
This-
riptide.
Sorry, this is Lance from Tucson again. I would say don't take on a pool or a client that you have a bad feeling about. Most bad experiences you can learn something from, but there's some that are just bad for everybody. So that's what I would say.
Carl, go ahead. Sorry.
This is Dean with Big Family Pools again, and I don't know that I would change anything and tell myself anything different, because that all helped me get to where I am right now. I mean, yeah, I could say, don't take on that pool because the backyard with all the trees, and it's going to be an absolute nightmare. But at the same time, doing that made me realize how important that backyard was. So now every time I walk into a backyard, I'm looking around. So I think all those mistakes that we made early on kind of help us become who we are. I think the advice I would give myself is, is to pay more attention to those phone calls early on. Like right now, I answer my phone whenever it rings. When I was in real estate, you guys, if you work with realtors, you probably know this. We don't answer our phones. So I used to let everything go to voicemail. Everything go to voicemail. And now I know that if I'm getting a call, it's oftentimes a client or a future client. So if I had a piece of advice, I would say probably make sure you answer that phone every time.
This is Carl. I would say, I think for me, I think that and this I guess kind of goes back to I think one of your original questions. I feel like I spent a lot of time at a lot of different service stops trying to figure every problem out. And I feel like there was some positives to that. I think being under the pressure of trying to figure it out right then and there, has some positives. But at the same time, I also noticed that when I started leaving some time open in my week to do those kinds of things. So if I had an issue at a pool, instead of being there for another hour trying to figure it out and put the rest of my day behind, I actually started taking Fridays off and leaving Fridays open for any kind of small repairs, any kind of small issues, filter cleans, etc. And I feel like that really, really helped me out. So I know that that's maybe isn't something that everybody would want to do, but for me, if I could go back, I would tell myself, hey, take Friday off and leave some room open to where you're not stressed out throughout the week, and you have some predictability in your schedule, so you can tell your wife what time of day you're actually going to be home, and then if Friday comes and you have extra time and you don't have a lot of things to do, well, then that's a bonus, and that's the time that you can spend marketing. That's the time that you can spend working on your processes, your billing, or whatever else. There's so many other components that I think that you can be using that free time for. But yeah, that's something that I would probably do differently. And then one thing I thought that was kind of funny, when I first started servicing pools, I had an F-150, a 4x4 F-150. So if you have a bigger truck, I would say it's life-changing to get into something smaller. So that's probably the best investment that I ever made, was getting a smaller truck. So yeah.
That's awesome, Carl. You probably look good in the big truck, though,
Yeah, I still have it. It's my baby. One other thing I will say that I think Dean touched on this earlier, is getting to know people in the industry that aren't necessarily servicing pools, but have a specialty trade in the pool service industry is very helpful. So, if you can get in touch and build a network with like a tile guy, with a guy that does coping, with somebody that maybe does pool covers, a resurfacing company, having those contacts is really helpful. Because not just are you able to refer them out and to give customers answers and give them contact information to get their problem solved, but those guys appreciate it, and they're also there. Once they're in your network, you can call them if you have questions. Or so I think building that network of specialty trades within the industry was super helpful. So I would have told my younger self, hey, get out there and go meet a guy that can do repairs or can install automation, or like I said, a tile guy, because now I have those networks, and I feel like every other day I'm on the phone with one of those guys, or I'm asking them a question, or I'm sending them business.
What about you, Chris?
Well, I just need to learn to take my own advice, I guess. Not take all those pools, but I have, I guess I've changed my thinking of what I will be doing. So instead of trying to get rid of the faraway pools, just to add more people and just take over Tampa Bay. Not take it over, but become a bigger
dominate
thing.
Tampa.
Yes.
I think
But we'll
John's
see.
going to be joining us in a second, but Brennen can answer this one, and I'll introduce John to everyone.
Yeah, I think going back in time, I definitely get my truck wrapped, because I see a lot of guys out here, they're driving around with no wrap on their truck. You can't even see their phone number. You don't even know who they are. I would have did that a long time ago. That, and don't be afraid to invest in the business, buy a Riptide, get all the stuff that you need. I waited a while to get the Riptide. I finally got it, and now I don't know what I'd do without it. So that pretty much, and then just be patient, grow. Just be patient when you grow, and all that good stuff. But definitely get your truck wrapped. Have your phone number on there. I should have did that a long, long time ago. and also getting the tools that you need, the big tools, the expensive tools like the Riptide and all that good stuff to help clean the pools. Like I said, without my Riptide, I don't know where I'd be, man. I need that thing every day.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, the vacuum system, before you had one, you probably were wondering why you didn't have one, how you survived without one. It's one of those
Right.
things, essential in California for sure. And I think John just joined us here over in, what Palm Desert, Palm Springs area? Is that the area you consider yourself in?
Yeah, Coachella Valley. What's up, gentlemen?
Coachella Valley.
There
Yeah,
you
so
go.
we went through a whole slew of questions without you, but I think a lot of the Arizona guys covered your Palm Desert, Palm Springs question with the heat. So we got that covered. It's probably similar weather. And then the question we're just finishing up on is if you were to go back in time and tell your younger self give yourself some advice that you didn't know back then, what would you tell yourself that, if you can go back in time and tell yourself? Like, I kind of botched that recap of the question, but you kind of get the gist of it.
Find a mentor. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it. Find somebody local, somebody you can trust, somebody you can tag along with, somebody you can, work for free for, get that one-on-one true experience. I think that's what's critical. And I think that's what hurts a lot of new guys getting into the industry is, they're out there as like a fish out of water, and there's too much. I don't know. A lot of the pool guys, gals out here, they're really guarded, and they have their mentality is, I don't want to help because you're my competition type thing, and I'm completely opposite than that, and I think all of us need to, better ourselves so that we can elevate the game and everybody can be more successful. That cliche saying of, a rising tide lifts all ships, I'm a firm believer in that. The better everybody is, the better we're looked upon as an industry and as a professional, and the more we can charge and the more we can, the more successful we can be, so it's just finding somebody, and whatever it is, be relentless, go out there and find somebody. I mean, I couldn't even imagine, when I started, it was really tough until I found your group, David, and it was the only community that I found or that I had that were, we were able to, talk and help each other out. But the problem is it's a little difficult when you're so far away, and you don't have that hands-on experience thing. So you just find somebody locally that you can that can be your mentor, and try not to. I mean, we all learn by mistakes, which is great, but it's a lot easier to learn what mistakes not to make and not have to go through them yourself, because it's a little disheartening, and it can teach bad habits and get people to not want to continue on or at least do the job right. So I don't know if that answered the question, but
Yeah, completely. That's great. Let's switch gears real quick, and if John's going to stick around, that'd be great. We're going to talk about some customer issues, and if you guys want to introduce yourselves again before the question, and just let them know a little bit of your background in this one also, because it'll be a separate recording. So let's see how you would handle these situations. A customer hasn't paid you in 1 or 2 months, and they're not responding to your messages.
Well, this is Chris with Pool Guardians in Tampa. I don't let people get that far behind. I mean, after 3 weeks, I would stop service, especially if they're not going to be responding. I mean, if they communicate with me that they need to wait a week or whatever, it's not that big of a deal. But if they're going to ignore my text, I'm not going to continue going, which that's only happened to me once. So not been an issue.
That's good. You're fortunate not to have that happen a lot. It happens a lot
It's
to us here.
Florida. I'm teasing. I'm joking.
Yeah, this is Lance from Southwest Pool Care in Tucson. I pretty much agree with Chris, more or less. I hear, or I used to hear, I thought I heard some feedback. I hear a lot of people say, well, you you can't stop service because then you'll never get paid. But that's how you end up working for free for 6 months plus, while the person sells their house or disappears or whatever. So yeah, I would, especially if you don't hear anything from them, just stop service right away and do what you can to get paid from there. But
And the mistake I think a lot of people make, I made this myself, is believing the person when they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna send you the check. I'll leave it out for you." I got a lot of that too. But maybe it's just my area in LA County. I don't know. You were gonna say, Dean?
Yeah, this is Dean with Big Family Pools in Chandler, Arizona. And in my 2 years, the 65 accounts I have now, I haven't had this issue yet. So I've been very fortunate. Um, like Chris, I don't think I would let it get past a month. I think that's about as far as I would let it go before I would just stop showing up. But I've just been lucky so far not to have that issue.
This is Karl with Pool Ninja. Yeah, I think I've been guilty of probably letting these things go a few times. I think for me, fortunately, I haven't regretted it. I've had customers that have gone a couple months behind, and I think it's the most important thing is that you just try to communicate with them. For me, I think there's maybe been 2 customers that I've cut off the service total, which I think is pretty good. And I make sure that before that does happen, that I have a written record to them. So I always make sure that I text and email them, letting them know that I'm stopping service due to the non-payment. And I always leave a voicemail as well, just so that they can hear my voice. Um, and I just think that's the most professional way to let them go. But like I said, luckily I haven't had too many issues with that. And yeah, I'll be the first to say that I've been guilty of letting a couple customers slide, and um, it hasn't bitten me too hard. But yeah, beyond 2 months, I've never let it go that far.
Yeah, this is Brennen here. I'm pretty much on the same page with everybody else. Try not to let them get too far behind. Communication is really big, so you just got to keep contacting them. And then if, like you said, if they aren't contacting you back, that's a pretty big red flag. So pretty much kind of time to stop the train.
So what about the customer that threatened to leave a bad review? I've had a few guys in the group have this problem. They're always worried about it. One thing I tell them is, you're going to get people that are going to say, "Hey, you didn't answer the phone on the first time, and, this company's terrible." And so there's always this kind of people out there. But what do you think? Have you guys ever been threatened by someone who was going to give you a bad review for whatever reason? Maybe your first acid wash didn't turn out good.
Well, let me start with this, because when I was in real estate, I worked closely with Zillow for 3 years. And Zillow is behind Yelp and Google, the largest rating platform in the world, because all the agents, we had hundreds of ratings. And it was a big thing. And I had a friend that worked at Zillow. What they told you is that when you have a lot of ratings, if every single one of them is 5-star, people are more suspicious than if there's some bad ones. So what they used to tell me is anytime I got a bad review, just go in there and reply very professionally to that bad review and leave it there. Don't worry about it. Because being a 4.9 where you have mostly 5s and then you have a 1 is actually not a bad thing. Now, I haven't had anyone threaten to do this yet. I did get one bad review on Yelp page, and he said, never called me back and left his name. So I did not know who that was. I went through all my voicemails and I couldn't find anyone with that name that I didn't call back. So I just replied, "I'm sorry that you had this experience. I don't know what happened. I don't recall getting a message from you, but if you want to, give me your number or call me back, I'd be glad to help you out." And I just left it like that, and it hasn't hurt me at all.
Great.
yeah, I actually had a similar experience as Dean on Yelp. I was trying really hard for a long time to have a perfect Yelp review score, and somebody who I'm pretty sure never called me. I had no record of communicating with this woman at all. Left me a 1-star review about how I never called her back. Come to find out, it was a different state. She was living in a different state. Never called me. Just got my business mixed up with the business that she meant to she just got my business confused with another company. And Yelp, of course, wouldn't do anything about it. So unfortunately, these things are just going to happen if you're in business long enough. You'll run into an unreasonable person or make a mistake or something like that. So I pretty much second everything Dean said.
What about you, Karl? With so many pools, I'm sure you've gotten some reviews.
Yeah, you know what? I would kind of second what Dean said about the replies. I think the replies are really important. Um, I I currently don't have negative views on my Yelp, but I'm sure they're coming. I know that the previous business I worked on, we did deal with a lot of negative reviews, and I think, yeah, I think you just have to reply and be as professional as possible, and just assume that the consumers that are reading these, um, uh, they're gonna read everything, so they're gonna make an educated decision based off of not only their review, but based on your side of the story too. And if they're not that kind of consumer, then maybe they're not the right customer for you. I will say, if if it's something with a current service client, I would probably kind of assess the the cost of what it would take for them not to leave a negative review, because I do get a lot of business from Yelp, and I do have a lot of people that are calling me saying that they've heard good things, that they saw my reviews on Yelp, and it has been actually really good for me. So I would kind of assess a situation, maybe with a current service client, where if they weren't satisfied, I'll ask myself, okay, what is the cost of reversing this decision? Is there anything that I can do to keep this off? Um, and then if I do think it's worth it, and there's something that I can do to make that current client happy, then I think the bigger picture for me is the most important. If I can spend $50 to make sure that this review doesn't stay, on my Yelp page for the next, 5 years, that might actually be worth it. But of course, there's a point where that doesn't become worth it, um, and so yeah, that's kind of my thought on that.
Yes, that's a good point. What about you, John? Have you had any bad reviews?
No, I've been blessed where we haven't had any bad reviews anywhere, but not saying that they're not coming, or you know, or- I think it's important not to stress too much over it. It makes you, I don't know, how can I put it? I think I caught on what Dean said, where he said that, look, if all your reviews are 5 stars and they're perfect, people sometimes might tend to be a little bit more hesitant and think, oh, it could be faked or whatever. But you know, it is what it is. You're going to be in the business long enough. You're not going to make everybody happy. And what comes down to it, I mean, I've had where a couple clients where I've spoken to, and they weren't very happy with where kind of things were going, and I always had it in the back of my head worrying that, hey, look, they're going to do this. But at the end of the day, if you're right with what you're doing, and you're honest and you're trustworthy, and you're not ripping anybody off, I think you should stand your ground and do what's best for you and your business, and not necessarily bend over backwards just because you're trying to accommodate an unreasonable person, when it comes down to the reviews. So I know we haven't really crossed that bridge yet, so I guess I'll figure it out when we get hit with it. Right now we're doing okay as far as like reviews, and on our Google and our Yelp, we're all 5 stars, which is great for us, and it definitely benefits us. But I think what's most important is that you just kind of stay true to who you are and what you do, and I think it'll all work out at the end of the day.
Did you answer the question, Chris? I wasn't paying it. I wasn't.
I did not answer the question,
Okay.
but I have not had that issue either. My worst is a 3 star, and John and Dean calmed me down when I got that. So if I got a 1 star, I don't know what I would do.
I didn't even know people could leave 3-star reviews, but there you go. Usually it's 1 or 5.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
3 is weird.
He
Um,
was. He was.
like Amazon. Whenever you see the reviews, you always kind of don't read the 2 or 3 star reviews because what's the point, you know? But anyway. Um, so what about a customer that calls you? They're having a party on a Saturday and they want you to stop by for an extra stop. And how do you handle that? Do you usually charge the customer, or do you do it as a freebie? I mean, what's kind of your way of handling it? We could start with since Karl has employees and things like that. Why don't we start with Karl and see how does he handle when a customer asks for extra service?
Yeah, so I'm gonna say 90% of the time I'm gonna charge if there's an extra cost to me. There's no reason why I should you know be paying somebody else to keep their pool, get their pool clean for their party. I will say there have been circumstances where I have made exceptions because I've actually had that happen before. Um, but a lot of times I'll make sure that there's clarity with the customer about what happens in the future. So, for example, a customer calls and says, "Hey, I'm having a party on Saturday. Can you come by and clean my pool?" Let's say this is a long-standing customer who always pays on time, is a great customer. Maybe they weren't, maybe they're an older customer where they didn't sign my current terms of service, let's say. Um, and with that customer, yeah, I might say, you know what, normally we charge for this. This is the normal cost. What I'm going to do for you is, since this is the first time you've asked for this service, I'm going to go ahead and provide this for you. Um, so sometimes I will, I think that, you have your rules that kind of apply 90% of the time, but there is every once in a while I do make a small exception, just as long as I once again create the clarity with the customer that this is not a regular thing. And a lot of times, what I'll actually do for those situations is I'll actually send them an invoice for with 100% discount. So I'll actually send somebody an invoice for, let's say, $75 for an extra service stop, and I'll put 100% discount on there, and I'll let them know, hey, just so you know, you're gonna receive an invoice. There's going to be 100% discount off of our normal rate. You don't need to pay that. It's just something so that we can keep a record of the services that were provided. Um, so that way, in the future, if that situation does come up again, they actually see the value and they actually realize that there's actually a hard cost to you sending somebody out to take care of their pool. Or if you're doing it yourself, there's an actual value to your time.
Yeah, I'm gonna steal that idea. I like that. The 100% invoice credit. That's pretty
Yeah.
awesome.
hmm Yeah, usually I've done that a few times, like I said, with a few different situations. Um, and it just, like I said, it kind of prepares them for, down the road. And even if it's not, it kind of just helps them grasp the concept that, um, you know, you, you, there's a cost to you every time something is done at their pool. So this time it might be they're having their pool prep for a party on a Friday, and next time they might ask you to come by and do a different type of service, but they're gonna probably assume that because you were clear that your time had a cost to it last time, that there's going to be an extra charge for this new service, if that makes sense.
I was going to say, this is Chris again. In Florida, our screens do get dusty and algae grows on them. So when it rains, it washes the algae and the dust into the pool. So
Hey, you just ruined it.
it's
You ruined
not
it for
all
everyone because I thought
exactly.
Florida was perfect, you know?
I know.
Whatever you say, Chris.
Yeah.
But we
my
deal with it.
Go ahead, Dean.
my first 6 or 7 months in business, when I needed every pool, and it would be devastating if I lost a pool. I would have jumped and just went out there and said, "Oh, I'll do this for you, and I'll take care of you, and anything for that great customer service, and maybe for your cost, you can leave me a review on Google, something like that." But now I do charge a service stop. It is an extra trip. It's a time where I can't go to another paying client, so I am charging them a service stop. Now, I stole this from John, so John was going to mention this. Sorry, John. But I'm $95 a service stop. What I have in my service agreement is for clients is $65. So they would get on their next invoice, it would be a $65 service stop fee.
I like the psychological things you guys are doing with your invoicing. That makes a lot of sense to me. I just never went that far, but I think it's a great way. And I don't know if John wasn't here, but Karl gives them a 100% discounted invoice, so they kind of know they got a free service. And I like Dean's different pricing to kind of give the customer that little, hey, I'm special. I'm getting a break on this. What about you, Brennen? Do you do any extra free services?
Yeah, I'm the same with everybody else. Yeah, it's definitely a service call. If I got to take time out of my day, drive to the account, chemicals, labor, cleaning the pool, and such. Yeah, it's definitely a service call for sure.
Here's one that I think a lot of people get goaded on. Customer buys equipment on the internet and asks you to put it in for them.
Yeah, that's kind of a unique situation. That doesn't happen to me very often. If it's a service client, and they've already bought the equipment without discussing it with me first. It hasn't happened to me too much, but um, what I would have to consider is, if I don't install it, they're going to have another company come out and install it. And account poaching, like I don't trust other companies in my area not to, try to poach take the account or on for service and things like that, throw me under the bus. So, I mean, I'd rather install it than, or like, God forbid, they try to install it themselves, which is also something that I run into a lot out here. So, I mean, there are things that I do. Sometimes I charge a little bit of extra labors. I offer a labor warranty, along with the equipment warranty on my installs and repairs and things like that. I might let the client know I'm not going to offer the labor warranty on this job, things like that, to try to recoup some of the costs that you lose. But in most cases, depending on the equipment brand, I guess, like if it's shoddy equipment, that a brand I don't recognize, then I won't install it. But other than that, I'll try to make a concession for the client.
What about the equipment, the labor warranty? What is that? Go over that real quick, Lance. When you say you give a labor warranty.
Well, I think this is something that most guys do, whether they give it a name or not. If you install a new check valve or plumbing or pump or whatever the case may be, and it starts leaking, like at a joint, or something labor related, like a week later, and they call you, are you going to be like, nah, sorry, I'm not going to come out and fix that, for free? I think most guys would, because you realize that was on you. So I just kind of make it a little bit more formal and let them know, all my labor comes with a warranty, typically 1 year warranty on all the labor, but it depends on the job.
Yeah, that's a good policy. I don't know if a lot of people have actually adopted that. I don't know if you do that or not, but a good way to let the customer know you're going to install it properly is with that warranty. Karl, with your size of your route, I'm sure you run into this a lot.
Yeah, so I will not install anything that we don't actually sell to them, but I understand that sometimes clients are going to go out and buy that stuff anyway. So even though I won't do it, I do have repair subs that I've used, or repair guys that I've referred out to. So even though I'm not going to do it, I'm gonna give them somebody that will. Just because these are guys that I trust. They're guys that kind of like Lance brought up, that in terms of poaching, I know they're not going to try to poach clients. And so I at least, if they've already bought their equipment, or if they're going to buy it regardless, and there's nothing I can do about it, I'm at least going to make sure that they have the best chance possible of having success with that install. So I will refer them out to somebody that would do it. Now, of course, there are some exceptions. If somebody buys a Polaris and they want to have somebody install their Polaris, obviously that's a pretty low risk situation for me. So I guess when it comes to smaller items, I would do something like that. But in terms of, I think what we're talking about here, which is pumps, filters, that kind of stuff, or major equipment, no.
Yeah, and I think it's the Amazon syndrome. Everyone buys everything on Amazon, and so it kind of bleeds into our industry. I get it a lot where people are like, "Hey, I got this pump on Amazon," and then I tell them, "Well, look at the description there where it says the warranty is void if purchased online." They'll see that kind of thing, which I don't know how the manufacturers can get away with that, but a lot of them will void the warranty if you buy it online now. But it happens a lot, I think. And does that happen in Florida at all, Chris?
Well, I don't do any repairs, so
Okay.
it's never
Yeah,
happened. But I have to go, actually, so.
Okay.
But
I'll let you beam
anyway.
out, and you have the greatest setup. People can't see Chris, but he has like these gamer headphones, and
That's right.
he's all set up. But we'll continue it. We'll carry on with that, Florida.
All right. I'll talk to you later.
Okay.
See you, Chris.
You have a customer that's really rude and unfriendly and ornery. Everyone has one of these on their route, I'm sure, Customers that are just not cooperative, they're rude, maybe to an employee, Karl, or they're just not friendly. And, maybe you took on the account not actually meeting them or not knowing how they are. What do you do in a situation where you run into a customer that just, and I'm sure John has a lot of these old codgers out in his area, in the Coachella Valley, that just aren't nice, I mean, you get
Yeah.
thicker skin, or what's the solution?
Yeah, I think for me, when I get those, because I have had, a handful of them, um, uh, I think over time, we know that these are the high maintenance customers. We know that these aren't necessarily the best fits for us. So typically, I'll try to kind of weed them out over time. To be honest with you, I don't treat them any less than anybody else. I always treat them just as good as I'll treat my best customer. But I'll do things. Maybe I'll start raising their rates a little bit just because. Um, they're going to take up, those customers also take up a lot of times, they'll take up a lot more of your time. So, I'll make sure that, when it comes to billing, I maybe will be a little more strict with them. I feel like you can feel those customers out, and it's not too hard to weed them out over time. If it's blatant, I have had this happen before as well. It actually very recently, maybe about a month ago, I did have a customer that was extremely rude to the point where, um, she was actually making the employees, feel a certain way. And that's when there's no tolerance. So once I know that they're really affecting my employees and their job satisfaction um, and their outlook, then they're just done. And then I have no problem having a very blunt conversation, letting them know that I value my employees and I value a good workplace for everybody. And yeah, it just seems like this may not be a good fit, and I might not be that my company may not be uh, the best option for you. Usually it's a very matter of fact conversation. A lot of times I'll even refund them their last month of service and say, hey, what? I want to help you find a service company, or I want to help you get a service company that could better assist you and that maybe is a better fit for you. So I'm going to go ahead and refund your last month. You could put that towards your next service company. And thanks for your business. But yeah, when it comes to disrespect and like I said, affecting the way my guys feel or the way that my day is going to go, it's pretty much zero tolerance once it gets to that point. Um, and a lot of times I'll even talk to them. This last one, I talked to my tech and I said, hey, shoot it to me straight. How do you feel when you go there and you're servicing her pool when she comes out and she talks to you? How does that make you feel? And he's like, I'm not too comfortable servicing that pool. And I said, okay, that's it. That's all you need to say. And so yeah, I think yeah, in general, that's kind of how I go about it. If they're not overboard, I'll slowly kind of weed those customers out over time. Um, and if they cross the line, then they're done.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that's you handle it well, that's for sure. How about you, Dean? Have you run into any of that out there?
Not too bad. I did have one that I went on to do a pitch to, and I was kind of getting that vibe. Now, I'm generally a person who I like other people. We can disagree on things, but as long as we can be respectful for each other, great. Let's be friends and let's have a conversation and just agree to disagree on certain things. But when you're going to be rude and disrespectful, I'm just too old to take it. I don't need that in my life. So on that one, I just got that sense. And, that was me judging what it was going to be like. I may have been wrong. He may have been having a bad day. But I priced myself out of that pool on purpose, and I ended up not getting it. That's what I would kind of do if I ran into a situation. I would say, first of all, is this the first time this has happened? If it is, then I don't know what happened in their life today. Something bad could have happened. Their mother could have died last night from COVID or something like that. You just don't know what's going on. But if it's something that's a pattern that's happening, I would just cancel service.
Yeah.
I guess I would add that some guys want to be buddies with all their clients, and I respect that. You tend to get more referrals that way. But I personally just try to keep unnecessary conversation with my clients to a minimum, to be honest. So this doesn't happen to me too often. I have a couple clients who, like I said, I hear from them every once in a while, and I'm like, you're kind of rude, a little bit disrespectful when you speak to me when I'm at the pool. But it's rare that it might be pretty rare that I talk to or see that individual, and some people just come across that way. Some of these people end up, being customers that give me the nice end of the year bonus at the end of the year every year, and who I get referrals from. It's just maybe that they're just kind of tense or socially awkward people a little bit, so. But if they're going out of their way to be a jerk every time they see me or speak to me, obviously that's where I would start working on removing myself from the situation for sure.
Yeah, I think a lot of pool guys put up with too much. I think that's one of the things, and I think hearing from Karl, and you really show that you just can't put up with that. There's certain clients that you just don't want to have on your service route. And I guess we could wrap it up with the last question here. Is you took a pool on that you should have passed on. Now what? You have that pool, you have that account. You realize that this pool is just eating up chemicals, is costing your employees a lot of time there, costing you a lot of time there. What's the exit on that pool?
Well, I actually had one of those, and it was actually it's like my fourth or fifth pool I ever took. I walked in the backyard. It was surrounded by trees. It was a 20,000-gallon pool, and I could tell right away it was going to be something that was going to take a lot of work. So at that time, my prices were way too low, but they were where they should have been for a new guy. I charged 50% more, and they agreed to pay it because they knew the work it was going to be. And after about 3 or 4 months, I'm like, I'm way too low on this. But it was a learning experience for me. I honored that price for 1 year. And it's kind of, it was my mistake for pitching it too low. So I was going to live with that. And after a year, raised price. And I am now getting double what I was on the pool originally.
Huh, that's pretty awesome. So you did keep that one. What about you, Lance? Do you have any accounts that you should have not taken?
Yeah. I mean, I think this happens to everybody at one point or another. If it's just like pool related, like not anything to do with the client or anything like that, there's almost always ways that you can improve the situation. It's just a matter of whether the client's gonna go for that. Maybe it's they don't have an automatic cleaner, or they don't have a good working automatic cleaner, or there's something you can do with the chemistry, borates, phosphate remover, water change, whatever the case may be. So my goal would just be to address whatever the issue with the pool is as quickly as possible with the client, and see if I can talk them into making some changes with the way the pool is maintained, and just see what I can do from that angle.
And I'm sure, Karl, with all your accounts, I think you posted a picture of one of those in the group where it looked like that pool was just crazy.
Yeah, some of the pools we have are, they're just they're monsters. So yeah, I've had that happen several times. I think kind of back to our conversation earlier, sometimes you just never know what you're gonna get when you walk into some of these pools. And I think for me, kind of like, kind of siding with Dean on this, I'll usually service the pool for a certain amount of time. Usually, I'd say on average, probably 3 to 4 months. And that's even if, it's costing me more than I thought it was going to cost me to service the pool. And I think for me that the reason why I do that is I know that usually in those cases, my next move from the business side is I have to increase their monthly payment. Obviously, I have to make the pool profitable. So I'm going to let them know what it's going to cost for us to maintain that pool. And so for that 3 or 4 month period, I really want them to see like what my company's about, what level of service they'll get with us, so that when I have that conversation, it's a lot easier because they know how good of a job the guys do. They know what it's like to be one of my customers, and maybe they'll see the value in it more, in 3 or 4 months rather than, just raising their price, after a week or two of service. So usually I'll kind of, like I said, I'll kind of take the hit if I underbid a pool, and I'll use the next couple months to kind of, you know, prove myself and prove the value of the company so that when I do have that conversation with them, it's going to be a very honest conversation, and they're going to understand why I have to charge them more. And, hopefully at that point, like I said, we've kind of proven ourselves and they don't want to use another service company. But either way, I'm going to honor the price for a short amount of time. And then it's going to be an honest conversation with that client. It's just going to, I'm just going to be straight honest with them and just say, hey, you know what? When we initially took on your pool, we didn't foresee this happening. Unfortunately, every pool is different, and there's no set rate that we can have on every single pool. So after 3 months of service, this is what we're going to have to charge you to keep your pool on service and to make sure that you keep getting the same great service. I actually had something kind of in this realm a few months ago. I had a pool that it would take, oh man, 45 minutes, to clean that thing almost every time for the service, like 45 minutes to an hour. And there's really like, for that to really work on paper, you really have to charge a pretty high rate to make that profitable. And so, I had an honest conversation with this woman, and I loved working with her as a client. She loved us as a service company. She couldn't afford what it would cost us to service her pool. So I actually worked with her. And so what I did with her is I created a plan, and basically the plan was, hey, we're going to do a full service on your pool. It's going to be up to 25 minutes every single week. I set the expectation. I let her know, hey, you know what? It's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be consistent and it's going to be good. And in the fall, it might look a little messier, but in the springtime, the summertime, it's gonna get caught up, and you're gonna be happy. And she was agreeable with that. She didn't want another service company because she really liked what we were doing for her. She got attached to her technician. My technicians they're super awesome guys, and that relationship that she built with him, made her not want to go anywhere else. And so we were able to kind of come up with something that worked for both of us.
Yeah, I think, Karl, you've only been doing this for 2.5 years, you said, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you have a lot of inside business knowledge that some people just have that innate ability to see things in business, and I think you definitely have that gift to where you can see things to work out in this industry, because a lot of guys would just cut and run in a lot of cases, and
Yeah.
you're able to salvage accounts with the way you do your business. So I think that's a special quality that is innate in a lot of business people, and you definitely have that.
No, thank
I
you.
don't
And
know.
yeah, and the great thing that really came about from that particular situation is it kind of, it kind of created a new service plan for me, So from that, now that I've got that plan with her and it's working out well, that might be something that I can apply to, other customers. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm kind of excited about, using that strategy going forward.
I guess I can joke about it. You call it like the junk pool service plan,
Yeah, exactly.
the garbage pool service plan.
Yeah, but of course, like I said, the important thing is that it's very clear and concise as far
Yeah,
as what's going to happen and what the service includes, and
yeah, totally.
yeah.
I totally get that. I don't know if John and Brennan are in an area where they can respond to that one.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in the same boat as Karl. I'd honor the price for a good 3 to 4 months, and then basically honesty is the best policy. Just be honest with them and let them know that you're losing money on the account, and or try to get a cleaner in there or whatever it may be to help make the account better. So yeah, I'd definitely be honest with them, and then have a nice conversation with them and try to make it to where it's profitable.
And sometimes in the bidding process, you see this pool, and you quote them a really high price to begin with, and if they accept it, then you're in trouble, right?
Yeah. I will say, I've had it work the other way too, in my favor. Sometimes I've gone to a pool and I've looked at it and I thought, man, this pool is going to be a monster. And, I look on the route text, on their route I use the skimmer app, and they're there for 15 minutes, 15, 20 minutes. And I'm like, wow, that's a pleasant surprise. So sometimes it actually goes the opposite way. Sometimes you think a pool's just going to be a monster, but for whatever reason, it actually ends up being extremely profitable.
Yeah, and I think it's a good idea to have a good landscaper in your back pocket. I always refer my tree trimmer to my customers. I have a guy that's really good. Important, tree trimmer is your friend.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's pretty amazing is how big of a difference it makes when the customer spends $600, $800 to trim their trees. It's a whole new pool. It's just an amazing transformation.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think we'll stop here. I didn't get nearly halfway through, I think, the questions, but I figured this would happen. That's why I kind of did it this way. But I think, Karl, Brennen, Lance, Dean, John, and Chris is no longer with us, but he's actually driving. I can see him in the video. So thank you for that. But I think this gives people a good idea from different regions of how we handle our business and how things are, and some of the differences. And I think a lot of it's common, a lot of the common things that we run into out there. And for those that are going to start a business or thinking about the pool industry, I think this tremendously helps them to get an idea of what they're getting into. Some of the best practices that you guys mentioned here, which are great, that I didn't have these when I started. I started back in the dark ages. There was no internet. There was no best practices. You just showed up every week and did what you could. And so we're in a new era. We're in a new way of doing things. And I think this is definitely going to help people to understand that the pool guy is just not some guy in flip-flops and a t-shirt back there. He's a businessman. He's someone who knows what he's doing. And it gives people an idea of what a pool professional really is. And I thank you guys for that.
Thank you, David.
Thank you,
A
David.
lot of it's thanks to you.
And I know this podcast is longer than the other podcasts I normally put up there, but I think the content is so useful for you if you're thinking about starting a business or if you want to improve your business, that in the entirety, I think you can really gain a lot from listening to these different perspectives. And all of these full service professionals are really successful in their business and what they've done. And a lot of them come from different industries and have come in and been very successful in the industry. And if you're looking to learn more about the coaching program and the group that they're part of, the SPSPA group, you can learn more at poolguycoaching.com. Thanks for listening to this podcast. Have a great rest of your week, and God bless. Pool Service Pro. Open a Leslie's wholesale account today and receive wholesale pricing on products you use every day. Leslie's Pool Supply offers convenient locations that are open 7 days a week. Another great benefit of opening a Leslie's wholesale account is Leslie's referral program. Get referred to a customer looking for weekly pool service. Also receive priority service, enhanced rebate programs, a discount on your general liability insurance through SPA, a discount on your pool routing software through Skimmer, and an opportunity to co-brand with Leslie's on your social media, website, truck, and more. Save time and money and grow your pool service route and become a Leslie's Pro.